I always thought haunted dolls were just stories. You hear them, laugh them off, and move on. But that changed the day we stepped inside the Mullins farmhouse. That was the day I saw the thing people call Annabelle and realized some stories don't die. They wait. The house stood miles from the nearest town, swallowed by farmland and forest. It was old, its paint chipped, its windows fogged like cataracts. We were a group of 6 orphans looking for a place to stay. Sister Charlotte, the nun who watched over us, told us the Mullins family had opened their doors to us after tragedy struck them years ago. The tragedy, we'd later learn, was the loss of their daughter. I remember the first night vividly. The air inside smelled of dust and wood polish. Creaks followed our every step. I felt like the house was breathing alive, aware. The Mullins couple were kind but hollow-eyed. Mr. Mullins spoke little, and Mrs. Mullins hardly left her room. Her face was covered with a veil, and her voice was soft, raspy, almost broken. I bunked with Janice, my closest friend. She was frail from polio and needed crutches, but she had the kindest heart. That night, while the others unpacked, Janice whispered, "Did you notice the locked door upstairs?" I had. A black wooden door at the end of the hall, bolted shut. Something about it unnerved me. Sister Charlotte said gently, "Don't wander. There are places in this house we are not meant to go. But children always wander." The second night, the door was open. Janice found it first. I woke to the sound of her crutches tapping against the floor. "I swear it was locked yesterday," she said, eyes wide. Inside was a small room, dusty, neglected. A child's room. The wallpaper was peeling, but you could still see the faded drawings of suns and flowers. A cross hung crooked above a tiny bed. And in the far corner sat a large wooden wardrobe, its door slightly ajar. "Don't," I whispered as Janice hobbled closer. She pushed the wardrobe open, and we both froze. Inside sat a doll. Its porcelain skin was cracked, its dress yellowed with age, red hair framed its face, and its glass eyes reflected the light strangely as if they weren't just reflecting, but watching. The sight of it made my chest tighten. "That's Annabelle," Janice breathed. I didn't know why, but my stomach dropped at the name. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining that doll's eyes, following us, memorizing us. And then I heard its footsteps in the hallway. Slow, heavy, but when I peered out, the hall was empty. The next day, strange things started happening. Nancy, one of the older girls, screamed at breakfast, saying her rosary beads had been ripped apart in the night. Kate swore she heard a girl's laughter in the walls. Even Sister Charlotte admitted she felt something was off. And Janice, she was changing. She told me the doll whispered to her that it promised her healing, strength, freedom from her crutches. "Don't talk to it," I begged. "It's not a friend." But her eyes grew distant, like she was falling into something deeper than I could pull her from. That evening, we found her in the forbidden room again. The wardrobe was wide open, and Annabelle sat in the center of the floor as though waiting. The doll wasn't where we'd left it. "Help me, please," Janice whispered, her voice shaking. "It wants me." The lights flickered. A cold draft swept through the room, smelling of rot and earth. And then the doll's head turned.
It was slow, deliberate, its porcelain face grinding against the air as its eyes locked on us. We ran, but Annabelle didn't stay behind. Over the next nights, the doll kept appearing in impossible places. At the dining table, at the foot of Janice's bed. Once, I woke to find it sitting on my chest, its face inches from mine. I screamed until Sister Charlotte burst in, but by then, it was gone. The Mullins finally confessed the truth. Years ago, after their daughter died, they prayed for a way to feel her presence again. Something answered. Something dark. It pretended to be their little girl, asking to live in the doll so it could stay close. Grief blinded them, and they agreed. But what they invited wasn't their daughter. It was a demon. That was why the room was locked. That was why Annabelle was sealed inside the wardrobe, surrounded by Bible pages nailed into the walls. "We thought we contained it," Mr. Mullins said, his voice trembling. "But evil waits. And now it's free again." Janice grew worse. She would vanish at night, only to be found in strange places: the barn, the cellar, once crouched in the hallway, whispering to shadows. Her eyes no longer looked like hers. One night, I found her sitting in a chair, holding Annabelle in her lap. She turned her head toward me, and her smile wasn't hers. She said, "I can walk again," Janice whispered. And then, with horrifying strength, she stood. Her crutches clattered to the ground. I should have been happy for her, but the way she moved jerky, unnatural made bile rise in my throat. From then on, Janice wasn't Janice anymore. Doors slammed on their own. Crosses inverted. The sound of a little girl crying echoed through the halls, though none of us cried. Sister Charlotte tried to bless the doll, but her Bible was ripped from her hands by something invisible. Pages scattering across the floor like dead leaves. And then the attacks began. Nancy was dragged under her bed. Claw marks left on the wooden floor. Kate was thrown against the wall so hard she broke her arm. Even Sister Charlotte was lifted and hurled like a ragdoll. I'll never forget the night it tried to take me. I woke to see the doll in my room again, its head cocked at an unnatural angle. Behind it, in the shadows, something larger loomed. Tall, black, its face hidden, but its eyes burned yellow. It whispered my name. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My body was frozen, every muscle screaming to run. And then the wardrobe door in the corner of my room slammed open, and I was yanked from my bed, dragged across the floor by unseen hands. I screamed until Sister Charlotte and Mr. Mullins burst in with a crucifix, chanting prayers. The presence recoiled, shrieking with a sound like tearing metal. The doll fell limp, but Janice was gone. We found her later in the barn, standing perfectly still in the dark. The doll clutched to her chest. Her eyes glowed faintly in the lantern light. "She's with me now," she said, and her voice. It was layered, two voices speaking at once. That was the last night we saw her as Janice. The next morning, she vanished. The doll was left behind, sitting in the rocking chair, swaying gently back and forth as though someone had just left it there. We left the Mullins house that same day. Sister Charlotte tried to reassure us that evil could be contained, that faith was stronger than darkness. But I knew the truth. Annabelle was still here, waiting, watching, and Janice. Wherever she went, I knew the demon went with her. I still dream of her sometimes. I see her standing in the shadows, holding that cracked porcelain doll. She whispers my name, and I wake drenched in cold sweat, the echo of a child's laughter fading in my ears. Because evil doesn't die, it just finds a new home. And Annabelle always comes back.